Hello friends, and welcome back to Sunshine and Serenity. We are in the garden, or rather what's left of the garden from the summer, the remnants. We're actually kind of starting to move into that fall season. So yeah, it's not very much is left. We're getting ready to kind of start over with the other fall crops and things of the garden, so that's exciting. But today I wanted to have you guys join me for a little bit of God in the garden. So we all know this is a crazy year, 2020, right? It's been just a year of firsts and a year of unknowns and things that are unexpected, and just it can be scary, right? It can be scary to go into the unknown, or go into something new for the first time, or go into the year expecting one thing and then being delivered something completely different. So it is definitely a year of uncertainty, that's for sure. But in all of this uncertainty, God has been speaking to me, and He is not surprised by what is going on at all. He is all-knowing. He knows everything that is ever has happened, will happen, gonna happen. He knows it all. So He is not surprised by this, and everything is for a plan, a purpose, and a reason. And we're going to see that later on. We have what's called tunnel vision, and we only see just the up close, like what is right in front of us right now. God sees the overall bigger picture. So we will look back at 2020 and see what amazing things came out of that, and just be completely blown away by what God has done for each of us in our lives. So I was laying in bed the other night, and God seems to speak to me at night when my mind is running and I can't stop, and it's just all these things are going through my head. So that's when I tend to hear from God the most, and I hear from Him also when I'm in the garden. So that's why I'm doing this in my garden space, because I feel like each of us has that spot where God speaks to us, and where we're able to be still and just be in His presence. And for me, that's when I'm surrounded by everything that God has grown and created, and everything that's beautiful around me. That's when I hear from Him the most. So I did jot some things down, because I tend to forget things. I'm a mom, so I forget things if I don't write them down, right? Can anybody relate to that? Yes? Nope? Just me? Okay. Alright, so we always hear about, Christmas time, like Jesus is the reason for the season. So God was speaking to me the other night, and He said, what about I have a reason in every season? There's a reason for every season. And so He kind of spoke to me, like, to be able to see around me, like, what is the reason in the season that we're in currently, or the circumstance that you may be in currently, or what have you. What is the reason that God has in all of that? Sorry guys, I thought I was hearing my kids. Anywho, so yeah, God was just kind of speaking to me, like, what is the reason in the season? So instead of saying, why is all of this happening, like this shouldn't be happening, instead of looking at it that way, why don't we look at it in the way of, okay, what is God trying to speak to us in this situation? What is God trying to teach us? What are we trying to, as disciples of Jesus, learn? What is He trying to speak to each one of us? So, sorry guys, I keep hearing things and I'm not sure what it is, and maybe a bird. Okay, anywho, squirrel. What is that sound? Anywho, okay, if y'all hear a squeaky sound, I'm not sure what that is. So anyway, so this season has been a season of firsts for my family specifically. I'm sure for everybody, but for me specifically, we have ventured into areas that we have not ventured into. I always kind of felt God kind of speaking to me and calling me to possibly homeschool my kids. But at the time we were super busy, and we were always going, and I was working full time, and it was one of those things where, even though He may have placed that in my heart, I said, well, I can't do it right this minute, God. Not now. I don't have the time. Like, I don't have the patience. Like, I can't do that with my kids. Have you met my children? So it was one of those things, like, there was a lot of things that God had placed on my heart, but at the time I couldn't do, because I didn't have that room in my life to do that. So fast forward to, we moved, and because we moved, I wasn't able to continue working full time, and we had decided financially and just location wise that it was better for me to stay at home with my children. So that was before all of this crazy stuff of 2020 happened, and 2020 happened, and all that stuff, with the virus and all that stuff happened, and it put my husband at home with us for several weeks, which was really great because we got to spend a lot of quality family time together. And we're not busy like we used to be, so we've been able to spend time as a family and spend more time in the Word, and it has opened up those avenues for me to be able to homeschool my children because of the circumstances around me. So, God was like, you didn't have time, but you know what? I'm going to make time. Here's time. So he definitely gave that to me, and so we are venturing into a lot of unknowns, a lot of things that we have never done before, and all of those fears that I had as a parent about, not being adequate enough to be able to do whatever God has called or placed in my heart. God has shown up and given me and equipped me with those skills that I thought I didn't have or I couldn't have to be able to do something. So if God has placed a calling in your life or something on your heart, just know that even though you may feel like you're unqualified, God will give you the qualifications to equip you for that season of life. So again, he will give you the reason for that season. So, we dealt with a lot of crazy storms, and, hurricanes have come through, and here in Arkansas, central Arkansas, which is where I'm located, we have had just days and days and days and days of rain, to the point where we have dealt with a lot of flooding in various areas of the state, and it has just been overwhelming how much rain we have gotten. I think since the hurricane came through, it's been nothing but rain every single day. I'm like, it's gonna rain tomorrow. Guess what tomorrow it's gonna do? It's gonna rain. But how oftentimes can we feel that in our own lives? Like, we can feel like that all we're experiencing is rain, just day after day of rain. All it is rain. We can never find the sun. Like, that's how we feel in life sometimes, right? We feel like that nothing is going right, like it's raining on you all the time. So I just have to remember, and Jesus has taught me in those seasons, that yes, there may be day after day after day of rain, but your outlook, you can always find the sunshine even when it's raining. Who are you looking to get you through those times? Who is your rock? Who are you going to put your faith in those hard times to pull you through? I know that for our family, we always put our trust in Jesus. We know that he has everything that we go through, he's got for us, and we will come out the other side exactly how God has planned for us to. But people are having to be rescued from the hurricane and the floods and the storms. So my question is, who is your rescuer? When things get hard, when storms come, who is your rescuer? Can you rely on who your rescuer is to get you through things when you have day after day after day of rain? So, we have learned through the seasons that we have walked through that Jesus is our rescuer through everything. So now we have the mindset of, okay, we may be facing a tough season. We don't know what this is going to look like, God, but we trust that you know, and will protect and bring our family through. So that was one of the things that he kind of brought to me, relating it back to, just what's going around us. There's joy to be found in every season. It may not be the biggest thing. Like for me, yesterday in my garden, I got my very first okra pod, and I didn't think I was going to get any okra. This is my first year growing a garden, and so I didn't think I was going to get any okra at all, because my okra plants have not done very well. And I got my very first okra pod yesterday. So for me, I may not get any more okra all season long, but for me, that one okra was that a joy for me. Like, that was my joy to be found in. Even though I didn't get any more okra, I got one. So next year, maybe I'll get two. So for me, there's something, God has shown me there's something to be found out of every situation. There's something to be grateful for. There's something to be thankful for. There's something just great to come out of every season, no matter what it is, or no matter how hard that season is. We hear about with this virus going on around us, and all the craziness and chaos. We keep hearing about, new normal, all of that word has kind of stuck with me since all of this has started, new normal. And what Jesus has shown me and spoke to me is the new normal is Jesus focused, not worldly focused. So when all of this happened, it forced our family specifically to turn our focus back to what's important. Jesus, family, just spending time together. When the world is chaos around you, you have to put your focus on what's important, and ignore the worldly influences out around you. You have to have a Jesus focus and not a worldly focus. So we have been working on that. God has been teaching us that through this season, and He continues to teach us that every season we go through, what our focus should always be on, because ultimately we're not of this world. This is not our home. So our focus should not be in the world. We're in the world, but it should not be of the world. Some of the Bible verses He gave to me was in John 16:33. He says, "I have said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In the world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." So He tells you right there in Scripture that you will have trouble in this world, and boy, is this world in trouble right now. But He's not surprised, because it's in His Word. He knew that we would have trouble in this world, but He has great news, because He has overcome the world. So we are in the world, but we are not of the world. So we have to have that Jesus focus, and ultimately that will give you a overwhelmingly sense of peace, no matter what situation you're going through. I have just been at peace with every choice that we have made in this season, because it has ultimately been placed in my heart and directed by God for us to make those decisions. Homeschooling, gardening, just all of these things like that God had placed a desire in my heart for. He had confirmed and brought to fruition these decisions, and given us a peace about it, because we know that is what God was leading us to do. He says in Mark 4:19, "But all too quickly the message is crowded out by the worries of this life, the lure of wealth, and the desire of other things, so no fruit is produced." So, if I always bring things back to gardening, because that's what I'm currently, can relate things to, but if a strawberry plant wishes all day long that it wants to be and grow an apple. Like, that's crazy, right? Strawberries can't grow apples. But if it's so focused on trying to attain something else or be something else, then it's never going to truly come to fruit for what it is. So if you constantly worry about what's going on in the world, and constantly worry about, like, well, if only I could do this, or people have to see things this way, or we have to all think this way, or if only I have more money, if only I have a greater or a better job, if only, if you can constantly try to reach for those other things to obtain, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, like, it's great to be able to reach your goals. That's great. Like, I set goals all the time for things that I want to do in the garden, or in life, or whatever, but if we're constantly trying to reach for those things that are just never good enough for us, then we will never truly be able to ripen the fruit that we were meant to set. We will never, we're strawberry. We will never be able to produce beautiful strawberry fruit in our lives if we constantly yearn to be an apple. Like, it's just, it's one of those things, like, Jesus has placed that fruit inside of us, and those desires and dreams inside of us. And if we are constantly focused on trying to be something else or do something else, we're never going to be able to ripen that fruit that God had placed in us for the reason in the season. So, that spoke to me really, because he had placed these seeds of desires of gardening and homeschooling and all this stuff in my life, but I was always constantly focused on trying to do something else that instead of focusing on what God had placed in my heart. And I ultimately never got to start developing that fruit until a later season of my life, because I deferred it for so long. So he also said in Luke 8:7, other seed fell among thorns that grew up with it and choked out the tender plants. So in this season, who you surround yourself with is super important, or any season rather. Who you surround yourself is super important. If you surround yourself by people who are they have such a negative effect in your life, they're just full of thorns. All they want to do is just get in your flower bed and choke out the joy that you have in whatever season you're in. Then you need to surround yourself with other plants, plants that will help you thrive and grow. People who will support you and celebrate your wins and be there for you when you have troubles and pray for you. That's super important, and no matter what season you go through in life. So we always talk about in the gardening community, companion planting. So companion planting is something that you can do where you plant different kinds of plants next to each other that are beneficial. So they are beneficial for growth for one another. That's the same thing in life. Surround yourself by people who will be beneficial to your own growth. People who will build you up and make you stronger instead of trying to choke you out and tear you down and bring down your joy. Because ultimately that will cause you to not be able to produce the fruit that God has placed in your life. And then the last verse he gave me was Ephesians 5:15 through 16. So then be careful how you live. Do not be unwise, but wise, making the best use of your time, because the times are evil. So again, it just ties in with, God's not surprised by what's going on in the world. He's not. He knows it's going to happen. He knows what's going to happen. He knows it all. But he has given us that fruit of wisdom to be able to discern how we react and how we deal with the chaos and the craziness that's going on around us, and for us to be able to, again, continue to produce healthy fruit and beneficial fruit and stuff, and for us to be able to continue and grow and flourish even after days of rain. So I just hope that maybe that helps somebody out there, that it speaks to somebody like it spoke to me, and I hope that it is something that can help you in this season, because we all know that this is not the season that we all expected, right? But there can be joy found in every season. God gives us seeds to grow into fruit, and that there's always a reason in every season, and God places us there for a purpose and a greater plan, to bring, just glory for his kingdom. So I hope that you all have a blessed rest of your week. I hope that y'all can continue to keep your focus on non-worldly things and be able to place your focus in Jesus, and be in the world but not of the world, and help you know how to respond and develop in difficult seasons and situations. So I hope you'll have a wonderful rest of the week. Thanks for joining me on my God in the Garden Bible devotional today, and I hope that it helped you and that you take something great away from it. And thanks for joining me. I hope y'all have a wonderful week, and until next time, we'll see ya. Bye. You gonna say bye?
Bye.